Genesis chapter 2, verse 9. This is a lengthy verse, so we're going to break it up into two videos. Today we'll look at the first half of this verse. The next video will pick up the second half. Kai exanetilin hatheos eti ektes geis pan zulon, horion es horasin, kai kalon es brosin. Today we'll start with the nominative here, which of course is hatheos, God. He's the acting subject pretty much through most of these verses, if not all. But if you look this up in the Masoretic text or in an English Bible that is derived from that, you'll notice that it actually says Yahweh Elohim or Adonai Elohim if you prefer. However, our translator just has Theos Elohim. It does not have Yahweh. And so that raises an interesting question. We'll get to some more of that here in a second, but this is a fairly common situation in the Septuagint where divine names are not always translated in predictable ways, and raises lots of questions about whether the translator had in front of him maybe a slightly different Hebrew than what we have in the Masoretic, or if there's some other interference going on. And so it's just a really interesting thing to be on the lookout for about divine names. But here we have God, and the verb here is ex anetelin, which is from ex anatello, and that means to cause to spring forth or to raise up. You'll notice in this particular inflected form, we've lost an L. You have a slight spelling change here and a third singular ending. This is a third singular aorist active indicative. So God caused to spring forth or caused to spring up. And then our next phrase is eti ektes geis. Eti here would be something like further or even more so or yet further, something like that. God is bringing forth more stuff, if you will, and he's bringing it forth from the earth. And next we have pan zulon. Zulon is tree. We've seen that before. So every tree, pan here in the neuter modifying that. So every tree. And then we have two descriptive phrases, horion es horasin and kalon es brosin. Horion here means pleasing, good to look at, something like that. And then we have es horasin. Horasin is, you can probably tell, it's related to horao. And this means appearance or sight. And this ace here is not a typical, well, it is a typical use of ace, but it may be not a category that you're super familiar with based on just sort of early Greek studies. This would be an ace of quality or an ace of relation. It's pleasing with respect to or in appearance. It's describing something about the tree. And then we have the same phrasing on the next line. It's good or beautiful. That's kalos there. As brosis, and brosis is food or things to eat. So these beautiful trees that are good for sight, they're beautiful in sight or good for eating. We'll continue the rest of the verse in the next video, but I want to kind of drill in just briefly on this disappearing of Yahweh. And I'm going to do some videos on this, but the main critical edition is not yet complete. Still in process, but the major critical edition of the Septuagint is known as the Göttingen edition. You can see that in its series title. And the book of Genesis was edited quite a long time ago by John Wevers, and it's produced by Van den Hoek and Ruprecht. And I want to look at the apparatus for this particular verse. And again, I'm going to kind of give a bunch of test drives through this critical edition at some point in the future. But if we look at verse 9 here, and pick up with the hatheos here, which is our word, you'll notice that it has some stuff in other manuscripts. I won't explain necessarily what all those are, but the additional word here is the nomina sacra for kurios. And so a bunch of manuscripts do actually have the Greek for the Greek translation of Yahweh in agreement with this scripted M here is the Masoretic. So it shows you that some scribes did at least recognize at some point that that word had dropped out. They added it back. In fact, the Vulgate has that as well, showing you that that reading goes back quite early. But for whatever reason, the old Greek translator had dropped it out. Not entirely sure why in this case. But this gives you just a really quick taste test of the Göttingen edition, which we'll come back to in future videos. So thus ends Genesis 2, verse 9, part A.